Y'all got me good today. Y'all got me good. Welcome to another edition of Men's Talk. I'm your host, Metro, Anthony Murrill, the man, Mr. Metro Man of X2REP. We've been sitting here with, I like to call my EMG, and that means, excuse me, gentlemen, Elite Men Growing. We've been talking before the cameras came on, and welcome to another hot, juicy, couch-related conversation, barbershop talk, some Smokin Joe that we're going to give to you straight, no chaser. And before I move any further, I have on my left, and that is formerly known as Esquire Eddie Clarence Polk. And then I have on my far left, which y'all have been introduced before, Mr. Smokin Joe's. Show them that t-shirt real quick, man. That was done by another one of our EMGs, James Junie Harris. And, we got a lot of creative Y chromosomes in our EMG. But this is the part of the team that I can go back the furthest with. Pretty much 38 years of us being together. So this is a special edition of Men's Talk with your host, Mr. Metro Man. Okay, this thing right now we're talking about today has gotten juicy, but all week I've been rumbling with who we are. Not just as black men, not just as men, not just as Y chromosomal, but who are we? And the question was brought up after a whole lot of conversation. Are we Americans? And who are we in America? So we're going to start taping off of that conversation right there. So I'm going to put it back out in the real world. Who are we? We said that we weren't Americans. Mr. Polk said.
I disagree. Strongly. Absolutely disagree.
And we had to start taping, so let's go.
So, all right, so we'll go back to where we were before we started taping. And this was my point here, is that if there's anyone who is an American, it's got to be the Native Americans. I mean, they were here first. It's like I'm in my home. It's like, okay, who's in the home first? Me. So if I'm in that home first, and it's mine. So again, the example we said there. If I go now, I take a flight over to Jamaica and say, hey, I'm calling this Ed Polk land. It's still Jamaica. I can call it what I want. There can be majority of the people can recognize it as being Ed Polk land. But at the end of the day, that's Jamaica. So take the same thing back here. The true Americans here has got to be the Native Americans. Can't be anyone else. Anything else, illogical, don't make any sense to be anyone other than the Native Americans.
Now, guess what? Before I let Naaman speak, we had a voice come out of nowhere. And that voice was a part of my production team. And I want that voice to resonate again. And that was said at that time, let the voice be heard.
Let it be heard, brother.
Let it be heard.
We're not citizens, we're denizens.
We're not citizens, we're denizens. Elaborate. Now, the thing I'm gonna let him elaborate more, but I've had a conversation with Naaman, which I call Smokin Joe. And we had a long conversation about it. And I'm glad that this conversation is a part of the heat today, because we're going to get to a couple other answers and a couple other suggestions. But with that voice that resonated, we're denizens. Go in too deeper with it.
Yeah, what's that mean?
Because we were brought here during slavery, and because citizenship was never intended for us, we should always consider ourselves as denizens, because we haven't been released. We're still in the land of our captivity, and we're still subjected to the oppressor's laws.
Before you go further, we're not and were never suggested or even thought of as being what again?
Citizens.
Citizens of what?
United States.
Never once. So is the Constitution our Constitution? Can that voice resonate real loud? Now, is there a part of the Constitution that protects us as melanated kings?
Well, no. Let me first, before we jump on that.
Okay.
I'll go back to the first of what you said, because it reminds me of that movie Higher Learning when Ice Cube said, "Man, we behind enemy line." So I had to say that because that's the first thing that came to my mind. So
we at war, and I did
We
make
behind
that
enemy
statement.
lines.
And we say it every time we get on this podcast.
So let me.
We at war.
So let me go back to that. So I had to get that off. But let me go back to this here. So being a lawyer, I will get back to this here.
I love
Is there something part of the Constitution, at least on paper, is supposed to protect us? Yes. 13th Amendment. I mean, it's supposed to protect us. Now, does it really? I mean, you can have what's on paper, and then reality. So on paper, yes, it's our protection. In reality, is it doing it? No.
Now, this is the beauty of
That's
this.
George Floyd.
This is the
if that's
beauty of
protecting
this.
us.
Because I have not said
That's
a
Tamir
word.
Rice if it's protecting us.
And I invite people to my couch, and I told people if I brought my lawyer, there would be a difference in opinion. Now, name me, you want to talk about this thing, man? Anything you'd like to add to this, my brother of another? Because you were right there with us. Or do we need to move on from this conversation? Because I love the way it fell in my
I like
lap.
the dialogue.
I love the way it fell in my lap.
I guess I would ask the question: Do you do you have a birth certificate?
I got a piece of paper, and I can generate plenty of them.
Okay, and what does that represent?
Well, to the people who made me have one, it represents that I'm a part of this America understanding.
Yeah, you are a citizen of the United States. You are.
You are a citizen.
We are a citizen on paper of the United States.
You
That
are.
is what
And
we
you
are.
know what? I don't have an argument with this, but
On paper.
Yeah,
That's
on
true.
I'm waiting to hear the rest
Okay.
of it now.
That's how they.
Let them finish
That's
this story
how-
before you say anything.
That's how they covered their tracks.
No, now we cover the tracks. Okay, all right, let's go. We getting closer.
Wait.
No, go ahead.
Because with the emancipation, it took the slave ownership away from the individuals. But it did not take it away from the corporation.
So, therefore, who are we protected by? And what is our Constitution if we're still not freed, but on paper? So, what are we, and what does the 13th Amendment do for us? And that was my conversation a week ago.
It does give you, I mean, from the legal perspective, I can't have someone come up right now and say, "Hi, I own you." Now, it's done another way. They call it the judicial system. But I just can't have someone along the street come up and say, "Hey, I own you, and now you got to come and serve me." That you can't do. But the whole concept of slavery, I mean, it's in the judicial system right now. It transferred from, as Joe said, it transferred from individuals to the state. Still slave labor, but instead of the slave master, you now have the judicial system. Same thing.
Can I have, before I have my voice resonate again, go ahead, name it.
All right. So if you look at the tax laws, and I'm not a tax attorney, so I don't. I'm just paraphrasing, and I'm sure that somebody probably can go back and look at the tax laws. Individuals don't pay taxes. Corporations pay taxes. So therefore, now that you're a straw corporation, you look at your birth certificate. The United States created you as a straw corporation who has to pay taxes to the corporation. Those taxes have to be assessed, and they were assessed based upon your labor.
Okay. All right, I can roll with that. Now,
So then you are now what? The property of what? The corporation.
but with that being said, that is
Which
just
the United States is a corporation.
and the United States Corporation. With that being said, we were never meant to be free. We came as slaves. We were put enslaved, and we were freed only because of a piece of paper that said you could not outright call us a slave. So they found other ways of doing it.
Of course.
So what I said, and I will still say, how does the 13th Amendment actually show us that we are Americans because we were never freed? We were just on paper given an out. But the way that they made it, it was an ABC. If this, then that, then what? We were chattel. And I said cattle, but I was corrected. We were chattel. And we've always been chattel. It has never changed. In fact, there are negotiations right now that if we don't change the Constitution, it goes back into where we were. Now, that resignated voice, I know it had something they wanted to say before I move forward on
Oh, I
this.
see a smile over there.
I want that voice to speak.
I see a smile behind the camera.
So when the Constitution was ratified, where were we?
We were slaves.
During the Emancipation, where were we?
We were slaves, and it took a while for some folks to even figure it out.
Was the Emancipation ever law?
Of course, it was law. It's written. It's written in laws. Is that again?
Proclamation. It was an Emancipation Proclamation proposal. Never ratified into law.
And this is where I want to move forward. Now go ahead before we move, because I do have my illustrious lawyer here. And this who, when I was in discussions, I only bought because I told another illustrious lawyer that I am not a lawyer, but I have common sense and I have vision. And though I might not be able to go to court and speak your language, I can go to court with somebody who can, and I can show you what I mean. So today I got lucky because now we get a chance to actually right wronged. So
now,
let's go.
I can't address that since I'm not a civil rights attorney. I
But
can't
I do
address
have a civil rights
whether or
attorney.
not it was put in the law. That I don't know.
That could argue that point.
I'm an IP attorney, so I don't know. I'm not going to talk about stuff that I don't know what is or is not put in law. I would think that the Civil Rights Act did that, but I don't know. I could be wrong.
Which Civil Rights Act?
I can't remember. Again, I'm not a civil rights lawyer.
Remember, the Emancipation Proclamation was what? 1800s, right?
Oh yeah. There was a gap.
But 1867, that was the first Civil Rights Act.
Okay.
That's where we came out of the cornfields and the cotton fields, went right into medical school. That was deemed unconstitutional. We were put back into slavery. And then 1967 was the second Civil Rights Act.
Okay, yeah. I am not. I will say I am not.
And this is the beauty of this conversation, because I didn't say that I had an illustrious civil rights attorney. I've got an attorney, and you just showed me why. All attorneys are very good when you have none, because they know how to walk that line. They know how to keep you from being able to put yourself in a situation. So the person that I was referencing at that time, which name and reference, is a very strong civil rights, but he still is under a banner, and that banner he protects. So when I want to go against that banner, I can't bring somebody who's under the banner like a Kyrie Irving, because he still gets paid by the situation. I got to bring somebody out the situation who can help me visualize and communicate what I'm trying to get done, who's not going to be hurt under that banner. So that's the reason why I would bring even a corporate lawyer, IA or whatever the case might be, because I do know if I can speak a little Spanish, my common sense can help me fight this fight. Just a little Spanish. And what I told in that conversation was, I can't speak Spanish, that's why I would bring a lawyer. Well, if you could open your mouth, why you need a lawyer? See, that's, to me, that's the fight right there. So we're talking about right now blacks in America, men in America. Mm-hmm. And right now, I stand on my square, like I said there. We were never a man in America. We're still chattel. The only reason why right now we even have the opportunities is because we are usable, and we have a need. They have a need for us. And right now that need supersedes anything, like slavery. Because they needed slaves, they protected those slaves. Because I needed them. So we're sitting here right now on the understanding that I'm only as good as my worth, my time, and my back, which you beat when you're not happy. And that's the way the world right now still revolves. That's the reason why we're still dying. That's the reason why we still getting our necks broken and we still getting raided in the streets. That's the reason why we crying out for our mommies instead of crying out for our villages. And that's when I bring my generational welfare.
But I think there's always something. I mean, I think when a system is so broken, people who run in that system have to make themselves feel better by doing something, even if it's just on paper.
Okay.
And I'll bring you to a different example of that. Think about the whole name, image, and likeness now in college.
Right.
In college sports. That system was broken forever.
Exactly.
You got all this money that's
Okay.
being made on the backs of these young athletes, and they couldn't make a nickel off of it. Think about this here. You have a college football player who is bringing in, tons of money for the university. He can't go out and get a job, without violating the NCAA rules.
Exactly.
So now so people now realize, once it gets to a point, you realize this system is broken. Okay, let's open up that name, image, and likeness and let them prosper on this here.
How about that?
And now you got folks upset with that because what do you see? You see these young black guys making these $1 million contracts.
Yeah.
And they're like, whoa.
That wasn't supposed to happen.
Because now let's be realistic. If this was about young white athletes,
It would be no problem.
this would
Nephew
have been in
system is
place
real.
years ago.
That's right.
This would have been in place
That's right.
years ago. But now that the primary beneficiaries were young black men, so now finally it's been broken enough. They'll finally say, okay, let's do something about it.
But see, why has it got to be broken before there's activity?
Hey.
So my whole thing right now is, and I'm not going to harp on this, but because it came up, I figured that we should have conversation. I stand on the understanding that they only do things to protect what they and their
Protect the
agenda.
empire. Protect the empire.
There you go.
Protect the empire.
There you go.
You got to always protect the empire.
That's it.
At any cost.
At any
Because
cost.
if you sit there and you get to the point where it's enough upswell that you're going to interrupt that $1 billion NCAA industry, you got to step in and say, whoa. This groundswell, let's give them name, image, and likeness. There's too much money being made here,
That's
too
right.
much at stake.
That's right.
We got to protect the empire. So
That's
it's
right.
always about protecting the empire.
That's right. And that's why I say the agenda and whose agenda. And that's the Americas we was talking about earlier. So when you said the Native Americans, well, we so far past that, and they really don't have any discussion in what we're talking about right now because way before that. We got a problem right now with the fact that if we right now don't understand generational wealth, generational health, and village, then we're going to end up losing not just slavery, but our presence in this whole understanding of their Americas.
Well, that's now you hit that topic.
Okay,
there.
okay.
That's what we were talking about.
Okay, all right. I just had to bring it back.
This whole generation.
But I got personal, y'all, for a minute because my partner here and me, we have butted heads. But
let's go back.
But let's go back to really what we're talking about.
Let's finish right here.
Now
when we talk about this whole concept.
That was to prove your point.
Not prove my point,
But you gotta
but not
answer me
prove
a
my
question.
point.
Because
But have discussion that I couldn't
about
have.
discussion about citizenship, right?
No. To have a discussion that I couldn't have.
That we are not citizens, or we.
Well, first of all, I don't really look at the citizenship as my issue because for me to get married, I don't need the white man to tell me I'm married.
No, not necessarily.
So my thing is, I don't really look at the citizenship
Right.
because I know we got to make that dance. It's a song and dance. So I'll dance as long as.
So are we not?
Well, we are under the umbrella that they have called citizenship, but we're really still not citizens. And I'm gonna say that again. We're under the. He said it very eloquently. I'm telling you straight, no chaser. We're just black men in America who really just here because of our back, our labor, and what we've done to create. If it wasn't for that, if we couldn't play basketball, we wouldn't be on a team. If we couldn't throw the damn pitch or hit the damn fastball, we wouldn't be playing baseball. We don't play still hockey and all them other sports because we ain't good at it, and they're going to keep it the way they want to keep it. But when we do get in it, we do well. We're the kind of people that evolve, and they keep us from evolving by fighting amongst ourselves. And that's why I always talk about generational wealth and health. I always talk about village. I will fight my brother to keep my brother's mind from being mangled by the views of the other brother. And they are our brothers. They just come from a different side of the sun. We're all from the same. So if you have race, if you get a winner, you have no race. One winner kills all the races. If you run a race and you got 10 people and one win, all the others die. Only one wins. So I don't believe in the race. I believe in us. The Americas. Us. Next us. So I don't really look at citizenship. I look at this is my piece of land. and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put my time into it, just like they did. I'm gonna come in here, and if I can beat you, and I can take this land because I got power, then it's mine. And that's what Eddie was pretty much saying when he was talking about Polk in Jamaica. That's the way this America works. So we've really never been, and they don't never expected us to even be where we at. When they took us out of our kingdom and out of our crown, they thought they had just diminished that with the books and everything they lost, but we kept digging up and they kept finding things. And then the brothers from their mothers who found out they were just as much of a brother as we were started telling our story. That's why right now there's certain white folks, you got black kids and great-grandfathers who used to have slaves and hated them. And now they got to love them because their great-grands bought black babies. See, this really is not really about citizenship. It's about just us and being able to deal with us. That's the reason why right now, if you see what happened to Floyd, if the village was tight, it wouldn't have been right. They wouldn't have been able to get away with that.
Well, it's about consequences. If you know there's going to be consequences, you don't do it.
There you
when
go.
You know what you can get away with. That's how you do it.
And they have no consequences
there's
because
no consequences.
we were never nothing but chattel. It's no consequence hurting us. But when we hurt them, it's quick, swift, and...
Well, go back. Naaman and I were talking about this earlier.
Okay.
If you talk about all these years when you would see police brutality and no one would ever get arrested, I can't remember exactly where it was, but I remember one of the first, if not the first arrest, was a black cop that had killed a white lady somewhere in Minnesota in that
How about
area
that?
there. That was finally an arrest. You finally got an arrest. He was so in black.
Yeah.
That's what happened on that one day.
Switch to judgment.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what happened there.
Yeah.
So it's about consequences. When you know there's no consequences, then you do what you want.
Do what you want.
Nothing's gonna hurt me.
And straight talk, my boys that I came up, they used to call themselves niggas. And some people men. And they had a slogan. Niggas do what they want. Men do what they got to.
You brought up something now. As the people like say, the N-word. I just hate people talk. This is my take on that. I could care less if you say nigga, whatever you want to do.
Because a nigga for real
no,
is anybody.
But it don't bother me.
Because it ain't you.
No. But think about this here. All the words that you've had for white folk, honky, cracker, whatever.
Right.
They fine. It's like if you say the word nigga, all of a sudden we just gonna fall apart, and I'm gonna melt. I'm like, oh Lord, you said that word, nigga. Don't say that no more.
Yeah, how about
Don't
that?
say that word. It's gonna hurt me.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's a word.
Right.
That was
and we want to act like it's that one thing.
That's
if
right.
you say
That's right.
we are so weak. If you
When you
the
say that word
nigga,
like kryptonite.
it's kryptonite.
Yeah.
You say the word nigga, I'm just gonna sit there like, oh Lord, I'm gonna slide down. Oh Lord, why you say nigga?
You had to go there.
Lord
you
Jesus,
had to
come
go
take
there.
me.
Right.
Hey, look,
It's crazy. That
why'd
makes
you
no
have to
sense.
go there? You know that's unfair.
It's like what? It's like we can't take a word. Are we that weak of a people that you say a word and we all fall apart?
Right.
Come on, man. Come on. It's like come on, man.
Yeah.
Right.
We stronger than that. Right?
Yeah,
We
well,
stronger than that.
well, you know,
I don't care.
That's the reason why I love straight talk.
Oh, come on.
Because see, my thing is, it's good to have diversity. It's good to have people who unafraid to be unafraid. You know, and my thing right now is I really get it, and I think a lot of people get it, but they don't have a chance to talk about it on their platform, in their worlds. This is our world. Just like you hear that voice that just resonates in the air. Are you still out there, voice?
Yeah.
There it is. See, we have a voice of reason, and we have a voice of production. But then we also voices of reason. Some are more reasonable than others. But that's who we are. And every one of us, and I love using Chicago Bulls because Jordan is just not a great basketball player because Kobe was my favorite. But Jordan is the man. But Kobe is my man. And there's a reason why. We'll talk about it on another level. But I use Bulls because Jordan brought in an understanding that just because one being might be the man, if you find your man on that team, you also the man in your village. So, Kerr, Rodman, Pip, Caldwell, even if we can go back to the brothers. Horace Grant.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody is a man if you play your role.
Everybody
And if you respect your lane you in, you can be $1 million man. But if you weigh yourself amongst your brothers all the time, then you'll never figure out who you are. You'll never become who you need to be. So this is where we are now. It's EMG. And that's why I always say, who's going to be Jordan this time? So before we move forward, I want to make an example. We were at a breakfast not too long ago, and somebody called me and they were talking about what y'all doing, having a cell phone convention? What y'all selling cell phones? Because there were cell phones everywhere. But them cell phones are how we do business now. So I said, well, actually, we were just doing some generational wealth and some trading, and we were discussing about, obtaining passports and where we wanted to be in the next 10 years. So those cell phones were just a way of communicating and checking our I's and crossing our T's. So people chimed in, like, oh, Metro, I see you growing. I said, no, we growing.
Now you bring up one thing here. You kind of dovetailed into another topic there. This whole, when you talked about, hey, do we belong here, whatever the case may be. There's this whole movement where a lot of folks are saying, hey, you know what? There's something outside of the United States. There's other places. I don't have to be here. And I can find a very good life outside of other places.
How about that?
And I think that's what a lot of folks are starting to look at now. You got Mexico, you got Africa, you got Central America, where people are going and realizing, like, hold up, we've been so brainwashed here.
To America.
That what you see in America is what, that's what you're supposed to think. Again, before we got on the air, one of the things we were talking about is I spent a lot of time in Costa Rica. And I remember the first time I went to a grocery store, and I'm seeing the eggs sitting out. I'm like, well, I ain't want to buy them.
The chicken
I'm like, them eggs got to be bad. Sitting out. They supposed to be refrigerated.
Right.
My mind was, I don't want to buy them.
Yeah.
Because you're so indoctrinated, you're not realizing, like, hold up. Maybe those are what they're supposed to be able to do.
How about that?
And just maybe,
and we're doing
I ain't supposed to have to put my eggs in the refrigerator.
Exactly.
So if I got to put my eggs in the refrigerator, they don't, then maybe there's something going on here. Same thing there. As we were sitting there talking about vegetables.
Yeah.
You go to Costa Rica, you get some of those vegetables.
And they don't cost a whole lot of money.
It don't cost a lot, but the same thing, they don't last 10 years like they do here. I get some lettuce that lasts 50 years.
So basically, you say we paying for bad produce. Exactly. We're producing the understanding that bad produce is the right production and the right walk.
We eat garbage and we think that's class. We think it's the top of the line.
The garbage.
Because that's what you've been taught.
I want to go backwards then. As slaves, didn't we think the same way? They fed us garbage, and we made dinner out of it.
But we
still eat it today.
We made chicken.
Brother, do you want to say anything? Do you want to say anything, Israelite? Or I mean, is there something you want to throw in the air? Do I need to have that voice of understanding come?
No.
All right, but anyway.
So what you said, if you knew better, you do better.
And when you know better, you do better.
Exactly.
And see, basically, straight talk, men's talk, Y chromosomio. I mean, we don't always agree, but we can beg to differ. And we can still agree to disagree and still break bread later. So, yes, this is a platform to be able to be your best. So he brought up Costa Rica. Now, for years we talked about traveling, since we was in college, And for years we were trying to get our families tight. Now we're all fathers and proud dads, And for years we, whether I was legitimately supposed to be a husband or not, we're husbands, And we're good. But now we're half a century and almost 6 miles, each one of us. And now we're looking to see what it is we want to do. So we talked about some things, and Country did a lot of traveling. I call him Country, but, Mr. Polk here did a lot of traveling. And, Mr. Naaman Mitchell, while he was philanthropy and doing the barber business and doing all the different hair cutting and what's that, Glenn Jackson, golden scissors, and I'm Metro, and I'm doing my horn and throwing my geo out in the world. We're traveling, but we just wasn't spending enough time together. So by osmosis, we said one day we're gonna travel together. We're gonna just have our families be together, not even knowing that one day there'll be a real situation where, hey, it's now happened. Tell us a little bit about that, since right now you're Jordan.
No. A few years ago, I had this dream years ago that I wanted to actually retire outside the U.S. Quite honestly, I did the math of what it would take to continue my lifestyle here in the U.S. versus leaving outside. It wasn't even a close decision. You just crunch the numbers. You're like, I'm going to have to work till I'm 80. in order to maintain life,
That's right.
or build up something and then move outside of the U.S. And so,
But before you go further, most people go to Carolina or Florida.
oh no, you ain't saving nothing.
But that's what they did,
That's
right?
what you think.
But
still, you
the
think
next
that.
level here.
You think that.
There you go.
Tell you like this here. You save up that big nest egg and you do move down there, all it takes is one catastrophic health event.
That's it.
And everything you own is gone.
It's gone.
Because
Thank you, Medicare.
If
Medicaid, I mean.
if you're not being able to pay that bill,
That's right.
and there is a source somewhere, they're gonna go get that money.
That's right.
You're not protected. And so you have places like, again, my plan is to eventually retire in Costa Rica. They have universal health care there. So if there is a catastrophic health event that I got to deal with, they're not coming to say, okay, let me go take everything you got.
That's right.
That's not happening because it's covered by what you have there. So that's part of what I looked at. Is that you're never protected here in the U.S. I mean, maybe you got $1 billion. You got $1 billion in the account somewhere. Maybe
We're still never protected in the U.S., but we citizens. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, but you're always one event away from losing everything you got. Think of all the people who had their 401ks.
That's right. Stolen from them.
That when the market
Lied
went down.
to 'em about
Don't
it.
get me talking about the market.
Oh,
The most
yeah.
rigged thing on
Oh,
this
yeah.
face of this earth. But anyway, the people who lost all of their money in a 401k, and then all of a sudden now they got to keep working. They can't retire. Now let me make sure one thing, because I do know a little bit about the market right now. All those people who lost money in the 401k, because when I used to, just to hold that brainwashing there, I used to have my 401k, and I used to think, oh man, the market goes down, so everybody's losing money.
Yeah.
But what you got to understand, in the stock market, there's two sides to every transaction. There's a buyer and there's a seller to every transaction. So all those 401ks, those poor people lost their money.
That's right.
Who do you think was on the other side of that?
Buying it up.
Some very wealthy folks who understand how the market works.
Yeah.
So they understand, as I now understand, you make money up or down. It don't matter
That's
whether it go
right.
up or
So when
down.
you lost,
So all those
they
401ks that dropped down, you saw those billionaires, their
Come
money
on.
got going
That's
right
right.
up.
That's right.
And that's the way the stock market works.
And-
So no,
and
you are never
welcome
protected.
to the Americas.
Never protected, are you?
So now, with that being said, because we're gonna get to the trading thing too. Now we're looking at Costa Rica compared to not Mexico, because
Well, I mean, I look at different places. I mean, for me, that's just where I found what I was looking for. You have, and actually, Mexico is the largest group of what they call is now expats. So folks who move outside the U.S. want to go to a different life, but still keep their citizenship. They call them expats. So the biggest, by far, and I think it may be something like 80% of all expats are in Mexico. It's close. It's cheaper than what we are here. So that's where the bulk of everyone is. But then you have people spread out at, Central America, Africa, whatever the case may be.
That's right.
But what I have uniformly found, and this, I'm on a lot of these groups on Facebook, and I kind of listen to folks talking. For the most part, what you'll see, if you have the right expectations, because if you're still expecting to go over to Costa Rica and live
like
the United States life,
Exactly.
you're gonna be sorely disappointed.
that's right. So
But if
you
you
got to
go
change
to
your
another
full process. when
you
do
gotta
it.
get rid of all that. Get rid of all of
You've
that.
already done all that.
Yeah.
Now
So
it's
once
time
you
to go here.
deprogrammed all
There
of
you
that
go.
out your head and you realize that you're in a different place, what I have universally heard is they are living their best life and they wonder why it took them so long.
Because you have less mileage on your brain,
Yes.
you have less baggage on your back, and you're now able to really enjoy
Life.
and freedom.
Yes.
Because once again, I stand on my square. This is not a land of the free, not for black folk, and that's what I'm saying. Now I'm not a Jerusalem or a Judas or all the brother things, but I'm a collector of information. And I really do believe that there's a lot of information that if you would just collectively sit down and have a conversation about, we could grow and we could have our own generational wealth. But the problem is
But with generational wealth, now that you bring that up, the problem, this isn't just a black problem. Let's call it for what it is. I read something not too long ago that said that even those who build up something,
right?
nice little nest egg they built up in their lifetime, by at least let's say 1 or 2 generations.
That's right.
It's all gone.
It's gone.
Nothing's left.
It's gone.
It is completely gone. Because one, the people you gave it to weren't prepared to do anything with it.
Weren't trained.
They weren't trained. They didn't work.
They
for
didn't
it.
listen.
They didn't work for
And
it.
anything you've given is always going to be easily and greasily slipping away.
Yes, because if you don't appreciate what you're given,
That's right.
it ain't gonna last very
It ain't
long.
going to last long.
So it's that whole concept of what can you develop, what can you, and sometimes it's what can I develop that's going to last even longer than my lifetime that could still be there. And I give you,
Generational.
again, you know, I've looked
That's
at
right.
one of the things I'm trying to develop for myself is, you know, it's something within the stock market if it can last long past I'm gone. But one thing that I did look at the other day, I was looking at different, you know, places where I you know, well, some things I'm working on. I'll leave it at that. And I noticed that one of the biggest funds, like Fidelity,
Right.
$1 trillion fund. You know that's 50%. I think it's 50 or somewhere percent owned by one family.
Wow.
I didn't realize that. I'm looking at it. and I'm like, whoa.
But
There's
that's
a family.
Like that's really what
now
America
now
is
that
built off of.
Now that is generational wealth.
How about that?
There's a
I don't
family
care
that
about
owns
their
50%
generational
of
wealth.
that.
I just want to get a 10% of somebody's
Now
generational wealth.
That generational wealth
yeah.
is something that even your next generations can't squander.
But you know
That's
what? That's the
generational
reason why it's been brutal to black folk. Because it took a lot of brutality to get to that level of brutal. So I'm just going to keep it real. Yes, a lot of people, if they really did their homework, would understand and would be a little frustrated, like I am sometimes with America. Because, like you said, I came up, I'm going to move to North Carolina. That's where we from. You know, because now we can't do that. Now we're going to try to maybe go back to Africa. Oh, they don't want us there. So we can't do that. So now we're going to look at other places. But you looked at Mexico. Then you looked at Panama.
Look at Panama.
And you talked about one more place. What other place that you was?
Colombia.
Colombia.
So
Now,
I had brought it down to those 3.
now, it was one thing that separated you from all those places and why you picked Costa Rica.
Now this the true story here. Now this is a COVID. Actually, COVID actually helped me decide where I wanted to go. So we're sitting in there. You know, I had visited Costa Rica a bunch of times before, and so now I said, well, let me go visit Panama because I looked at Panama. I said maybe get a combo.
Oh, and Lane Swan and Chris Swan, thank you for all that you gave us when we were going through this. The Panamanian woman of etiquette. What's up, Elaine?
Thank you. So we sat there, and so I looked at. I was going to plan the trip to Panama about 2 years ago. I remember it was in January during the COVID. We were supposed to go, and Panama was still shut down. And so they were like, "No, you can't get in there. You can't go." So I was like, "Let's go back to Costa Rica."
Right.
So we go back and rented a house, you know, right on the overlooking the ocean. I walked in the door, and I remember as soon as I opened up that door, I saw the ocean. It's just beautiful ocean view. I said, "Oh, I know what I want."
There it is.
I said, I don't think and actually, so before we even did that, I sent that picture of that house, and I sent it to the realtors in Panama. I said,
Can you do that?
Can you show me where I can buy that? There's a place like Coronado in Panama, but it's all built up. There's nothing left. And they couldn't show me a thing. So
They got a Coronado in California too.
Yep. So they had done that, and I finally realized, look, y'all can't match this. So I said, that's what I want. And that house was just completed. And actually, I was telling the name of the day. Made my last payment on that house today. So it's paid for. So.
Now, as we talking, and this is why I say it takes a team. And this is a whole nother story about all this.
Oh, yeah.
This is straight men's talk. And just so happened that me and Naaman, Slow Joe, Naaman, we already had our one-on-one. So we wanted to be here when I bought Mr. Polk, my man, my first roommate of college. And I wanted him to be a part of our team again because we were those 3 amigos in 1985 when I left from Prince George's County and Naaman left from Prince George's County, and we met my roommate in Salisbury, Maryland, who ventured 10 miles down the road to Princess Anne, Maryland, and became a roommate for me. You know, so these are the type of things that I try to explain how we get generational wealth in village. I'm an uncle, not because I got brothers, because I got a brother, and I got a brother. I know his kids. We've seen the mamas pregnant, all that type of stuff, you know. So this is what it's all about. Yeah. So when you got a bullish mentality, then you already know success is just what we do. We live it, we walk it, we already know. Each one teach one, release some, deploy them, let's have fun, oh boy them. This is what we do. So when it's time to get looking, or when it's time for me to get straight for my interview, I got my professional services over here. When I bump my head or I need somebody to be able to sit with me or write a letter, I got my professional services over here. And when they want to just have some fun and bring some things together, they got their professional service. You know?
One thing I will say this here, it's, I always say God looks out for children and idiots. And I ain't a child. When it came time to that whole, I gotta get a little religious on you here right now, brother, because whole process when I started building that house, it was, I'm ready to retire and I'm going to move over there now. Well, that wasn't quite the way things worked out.
That's right.
And that whole building turned into a business.
How about that?
And now my sons, my children, everyone is kind of, my daughter has looked at this. It's a business model.
How about that?
We built that house thinking I was going to move into it now, but realistically,
it was a business.
It turned into a business because we lease it to a company right now who,
who's paying it off and
very well.
Yeah,
I'll say this here.
That's right.
That check, I just got that check yesterday. That check looks nice every month when that comes in.
It is.
And it doesn't matter whether there's someone in the house or not. That check is the same. And so now we see that as a whole business model and something by, just a dream for retirement. Sometimes God will come in and say, no, let me sprinkle a little something else on that. There's a little bit more to that than what your eyes see.
That's right.
And so now when I saw that, I'm like, hey, that could be a business model that we could all get in.
There you go.
Get some investors together, and they're always looking because the company, and I won't put their name in now, but the company, they have their $1 billion worth of property around the world. They're always looking for new places.
That's right.
And their business model is they lease it from you, and and once the contract is up, you've done pretty well.
Yeah.
And so if you can get a portfolio of those,
portfolio or a house,
and you get a portfolio of those,
there you go.
Get a portfolio of those. That's a business of itself. So sometimes businesses come up that you start even thinking about.
Now this is the funny part. Naaman is normally the philanthropist, the one that always had these business modules. Eddie normally is just the person that does the paperwork and goes and be a partner somewhere. Now the partner's done. He has a whole different, and he's got a whole. Now they switching. He's kind of going back to where he left, and he's kind of taking a little piece of what he's brought to the table. And guess what? I just want generational wealth. I just want village. So when you bring people together, you never know how it's going to come together.
Exactly. That's what you.
And that's basically why we're doing.
Together.
That's it.
Well, that's what we miss.
Yeah.
That's what we miss as a group of people, being able to say, look, sometimes you talk about that crab in the barrel mentality. It's like you got to get away from that. Be able to say, look, if we all work together.
That's it.
I mean, I can't remember the number I was looking at the other day. The amount of wealth that is generated by black people in this country. It's enormous.
It is. We don't stay here long enough.
No, we don't do enough. Yeah, we don't do anything with it.
And that's another part of generational wealth. Yeah. Knowing that and finding a way to keep some of that before you give it away. But I want to say something about that crab in the basket. I'm the crab, the alien crab. When I get up, I'm going to reach back and pull. Not let you pull me. I'm pulling you up. So that you can now get some help to get up there on top. I'm going to reach you so that you can be able to help the other crabs maybe reach and become a chain. So the crab in the basket to me has grown from me looking at people pulling me down and me being strong enough to just hold on to people who I know want to get up. But I'm not going back down. So bullish, Chicago Bull, Jordan, Rodman, all that. I always talk about them because when you talk about other teams, you don't hear that. You just hear how great somebody was. But when you look at that team, it took all them dudes to really help get them 6 rings.
Yeah, because Jordan ain't win a thing until they got there. As good as he was.
Now that's the prototype for me. And he was good enough to be stern, bullish, and have a little cockiness, but also make his team great and make his players around him play without stealing their youth, their juice, or making them have to be deflated to be a part of the team. So that's a little something I'll talk about, my old school underscore and my underground. I talk underneath some things, or what you call it, I think of osmosis, and sometimes I have an undercurrent about how I go about business. So my thing right now is, we're talking about right now stuff that men talk. We're talking about things that sometimes if women in the room, they might want to jump in and be, but we got ladies in the room right now, and they just respect the fact that men are talking and enjoying. We don't have enough barbershops any longer like they have beauty salons. We don't have enough salons and places where men can stop dying because they don't have a way of letting their problems out. We don't have enough of those places. So this platform for me is just some straight no chaser, some kicking the willy from the chocolate city, being able to be Y chromosomio. Y chromosomio. I mean, it don't have to make sense. But anytime you see men dying and see men trying, it got to show you that it's something there. And that's basically what we talk about right now. So we don't have a lot of time to really talk about everything, but I'm definitely going to try to find a way to keep this conversation going so you can see the three amigos and the EMG along with my network foreplay and along with Smokin Joe's and along with the village of Polk and Polk Foundation, because we're going to be in Costa Rica, at least probably me. I don't know about Joe, but I know we're going to be there in July and October, and that's my plan. But October is when we're supposed to have a fellas night, a fellas trip. So we're going to see if we can maybe get some of this on our next, our summer edition of Metro's Straight Talk, Men's Talk. But the point that I'm trying to make is, if you don't go out there and make mistakes, if you don't go out there and bump your head, don't get that forever lump. Don't walk around that. But just go out there and be unafraid and just be ready to represent. X2RP, take yourself off the show, show your wealth. That's where we at right now. And let people be understand in the skin they in. Have fun battling and playing chess. This is my chess player right here. That's what he does. You walk in the shop, you walk in Smokin Joe's, it's always gonna be a chessboard somewhere. This is what we do. We cook, we clean, we be men. But we also understand that we also be Y chromosomio. And there's a lot of X factors that we have to deal with. Now, what are them X factors for you? And they ain't all women. So my thing right now is, stay tuned. If you got anything you want to talk about, email me, x2rapinc@yahoo.com. Before we leave, I just want everybody to introduce themselves correctly. Starting with Smokin Joe.
Smokin Joe's, Naming Mitchell.
Naming who Mitchell? I'm gonna be that person. Naming who Mitchell? Because I know Lil Naming the Trey is out there watching. Naming who Mitchell? I want you to understand this man is a legacy in his family. Yeah. And I don't understand why he being unbullish. Maybe I messed him up earlier, I don't know. But anyway, I'll talk about him if he won't. This right here is a dude that has been a patriarch in his family. His father, his grandfather, they got land over 100 years old, and his generation is big enough to look like the generation you see on TV called Dallas. But you'll never know it because some people are just so humble. When you walk into the shop, you'll feel like you have a consultant that's tightening your image up. Why he cuts your hair, he is a barber, but I don't call him a barber. I call him a professional what?
Master stylist.
Okay, he don't want to never say that, so I'll let everybody else talk. My thing right
I'm
now,
a barber.
yeah, that's what he call it when he on tape. But you look, walk in there and get your price. And if you think he a barber, go get Joy a cut and let him charge you. He better have another name. But anyway, my thing right now is he gets paid the big bucks because he's an image consultant. He's a person that when you come in, you get facials and you get a understanding of what it is to be human when you leave his vicinity, when you leave his chair. This is what people need to know about us black men. We don't talk enough about ourselves. We've learned to not be, as they say, cocky, but humble. No, if you are who you are, if you don't stand on your square, who will? If you don't share that light on who you be, then nobody else gonna understand who you be. Because I be, you be, they be, we be. conjugating the best of us. And if you can't do that, your square is unattended. That's why I always tell people I'm standing on my square. But anyway, he's a father of 2 boys and 1 beautiful young lady who are all in the world now. How many men can understand how important that is to reach them, teach them, release them, and deploy them? That's where we at. That's naming Joseph Mitchell.
Boy, thank you.
Okay, now I'm gonna move to my close left, and you are.
I go by Ed, but it's Clarence Edward Polk Jr.
There it is.
I've always been known as Ed or Eddie growing up, so I'm country. I was country because all the fellas I met at University of Maryland Eastern Shore, I was the one from the country. They was all from up here.
How about that?
Except for that one night we got lost in D.C. trying to get back from a party. Where
Yeah, we were all country then.
They was all
We were all country that day.
Yeah, we all country.
Man, we was probably 4 hours trying to get out of D.C.
See the stories, baby.
But I'll leave that story alone.
Oh no, we're gonna bring that story to light one day. But I'm gonna do it with a mimosa while I'm looking at what's the water out there, Coach Rica called?
Oh, we're in the Pacific.
The Pacific.
You're on the Pacific.
Yeah. So when I'm sitting there looking at the Pacific, we're gonna talk about all these things, you know. But the point is,
Boy, I tell you.
this is what brotherhood. This is what Y chromosomio. And check this out. Also, 2 boys, 1 daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing. It's funny how the life works. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm the oldest.
Well,
He was 5.
baby Joe is the oldest.
Yeah, he is. That's the baby. That's the baby here.
I'm the youngest, but baby Joe is the oldest.
Now you're the oldest.
Yeah, he's the
I'm the
oldest.
middle child here.
And the middle one is always the one that's caught in between 2 extremes. And that's the reason why now he's Jordan. Yeah. See, after all these years, he's found his place in the middle of these 2 elbows. But anyway, this is what it's all about. Now, if anyone really just wants to chime in, we want to grow this. Men's Talk, straight no chaser. Moving the tide toward rejuvenate our peeps, moving expeditiously through real obstacles. Metro, kids call me Mr. Metro Man of X2RAP. What's up, Peacemakers? Good show last Friday at Martini's. And, hey, look, man, music is strength. It just makes sense. Sense turns into dollars. Holla. Metro's out.